Assalamu alaikum, everyone. All right, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ba'd. So this is where we ended the last time. We spoke about the arkan and the wajibat, right? And when we spoke about the things that are requirements, we spoke previously about shurut, things that you must do before you pray for your salah to be valid, right? And we said that the reason you do so many things before you even pray is that Allah is trying to emphasize the importance of salah in and of itself. So it's like a gateway. You got to go through so many things to actually come to that point that now you're standing face to face with Allah. فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ, turn your face towards Allah. فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ, Allah is going to receive your prayers. So we've done our wudu, our clothing is appropriate, we've cleaned our clothes, we've cleaned the place we pray, we found the qibla, the time of prayer has come, we've set our niyyah, we made the takbiratul ihram, we've recited the Fatiha, we've remained standing wherever we could, and when we're unable to stand because of illness or tiredness, we sit just in that section. We've recited all of the Fatiha as much as we can, whether we're the Imam, of course it's an obligation. And if we're being led in prayer, whenever the Imam is quiet, we read. We've made sure that the ruku' is done. Sami Allahu liman hamida rabbana wa lakal hamd is spoken. That we said Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim in our sujood, in our ruku'. We sat in between the two rak'ah and another two rak'ah. We've sat in the final prayer. We've made our dua by sending salam upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we've ended salah with salam. If you do that from the outside, it's beautiful. And it's rewarded. And it's the gateway to Jannah. And if you do your 5 daily prayers with the bare skeleton minimum actions, you gain access to Jannah. But the likelihood of that being enough to save myself and you is unlikely. And therefore when the Prophet ﷺ was asked by a man, if all I did was pray the 5 day prayers, fast the month of Ramadan, if that's all I did, I didn't pray anything extra, am I giving Jannah? Yes, in sadaq, if you're able to do it. So what encourages us to do our prayers better is to think about some of the things that increase our reward in salah. And that's our section today. So in your notes, as you're following along, this is the next section now, the third part of salah. So the first is shurut, things before salah, wajib and rukn, things that are essential, obligatory inside the salah. And the third is now the beauties, the beautification, the sunan, the recommended actions of the Prophet ﷺ in salah. So the first place that we're going to begin, and I kind of structured in a way from the beginning of salah, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to raise your hands up to make your salah takbiratul ihram, your opening takbir. So there's 2 points that I want you to make notes about. And I want you to look up at me and watch me because it's important to be demonstrated, and that's how the Prophet ﷺ taught it to the Sahaba, right? So how do we raise our hands up? Well, the Prophet ﷺ, it's never recorded by anyone who prayed with him that he ever raised his hands past his ears. And the ulama, they differed. Is it the top of the ear or the bottom? So you'll see some people, they raise it to the bottom of the ear. Other people to the top of the ear is fine. You'll never see anyone go like this, right? Have you ever seen anyone go, Allahu Akbar? You'll never see that. And you shouldn't see anyone go like this. You know, the bare minute like this. This is unacceptable. So where did the Prophet raise his hands to? From the middle of his chest up to the top part of the ears is what the ulama have taught us is the range where your hands should be. So how do you raise them? It is from the top of the ear to the middle of the chest in that region. Sometimes you'll see people when they pray, they have their hands like this. They'll go, Allahu Akbar. This isn't from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not recorded in that way. What is recorded is that his palms would face towards the qibla. So your palms are to face towards the qibla, towards the Kaaba. And you will see some people, just to make sure that they haven't gone over their ears, that actually bring their hands to their earlobes. Some people get all fancy and stuff. They're like, Allah, they do that little flick. Now that flick isn't from the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ never held his ear. Sometimes you see people go, Allahu Akbar, like that. That wasn't something done by the Prophet ﷺ. He raised it to the level of the ear, but you don't have to touch the ear, hold the ear to make sure. Your hands face towards the Qibla and they're out before your chest, before your shoulders. It is anywhere near your shoulders to your earlobe. This is the position of raising your hands. You don't clench your fingers together, and that wasn't something seen from the Prophet ﷺ, and you don't like freakishly spread them out. That wasn't done by the Prophet ﷺ. It was very natural from the Nabi ﷺ, natural position of your fingers, palms towards the Qibla. When should you raise them? Now that's a very important question. And all of us come from different backgrounds. So if you're coming from a background like say India, Pakistan, if you come from a background like South Africa, you're probably following, or Turkey, you're probably following the Hanafi madhab. You say, who's that? And we'll study the Hanafi madhab inshallah in year 9. What does it mean? Who's Hanafi? Who's Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayh? Well, he's one of the great Imams. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, he took much of his deen, much of the knowledge of the transmission of the life of the Prophet ﷺ from one particular Sahabi named Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, who's one of the oldest Sahaba who followed the Prophet ﷺ from the very early days of Islam. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, it's known that when he prayed, he said, I saw the Prophet ﷺ pray, and he demonstrated the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ. فَرَفَعَ يَدَهُ مَعَ تَكْبِيرِ الْإِحْرَامِ. He raised his hands up with the first takbir, and then didn't raise it again in the salah. And he said, this is how I saw the Prophet ﷺ pray. That's wonderful. So that's one way to raise the hands. The second is narrated from many other Sahaba. Many other Sahaba who saw the Prophet ﷺ pray, that he raised his hands up with every movement while standing. And this is, you find in the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, so that the Prophet said, Allahu Akbar in the opening takbir. And then to move, to make ruku', Allahu Akbar. Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. Allahu Akbar, to go into sujood. To rise up from sujood. You're coming up from sujood, Allahu Akbar when you stand up. So there's 4 places of that takbir. And that's very common. So if you're coming from a country like Indonesia, Malaysia, most of Egypt, most of those regions, most Arabic countries, you'll probably know a little bit more about following that tradition of Imam al-Shafi'i. There's also another tradition, and some of the Shia students, and we have a few Shia students who attend our school, you will notice that they might raise their hands up more than others in their salah. And they follow the position that's narrated from Ali radiallahu anhu, which is also found in our tradition. So as Muslims, even as Sunni Muslims, we know that it's a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he would raise his hand up with every takbir, even when he was seated. So in between your sujood, you come up, Allahu Akbar, and go back into the second sujood. That was done by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's hadith that mention that. So those are the 3 ways of raising your hand. All of them are accepted because all of them are verified back to the Prophet ﷺ through one of his companions, one of the Sahaba who taught us how the Prophet ﷺ prayed. The second point of earning reward is doing the sunnah. How did the Prophet pray? Now if I didn't raise my hand up at all, is my prayer valid? Yes. Is my prayer valid? Yes. Why? Because it's not an essential of salah. It's not a rukn of the salah. Placing your hands. Where do you put your hands? Okay, Allahu Akbar, I started the salah. The most common position amongst Sunni Muslims is that your hands go on your chest. Your right hand over your left hand. And it could be your right hand actually on the left hand, or your right hand holding the wrist of your left hand, or holding a part of your hand with your wrist and putting it on your chest. Now the word chest in Arabic actually refers to your heart. So in the language of the Quran, there's 4 words that speak about your heart. There's jinan, there's qalb, there's fu'ad, and there's sadr. And Allah says, Alam nashrah laka sadra. Haven't I opened your heart, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, filled it with compassion and love and strength and ability. So the word sadr, it doesn't mean chest, but it means what's in the chest that's valuable, the heart. And therefore the Prophet ﷺ would put his hands on his heart. And it could be like this. A lot of sisters pray like this. It could be like this, which is more of a strong holding. A lot of men pray like this. And there's no difference between men and women in that. Both of them are valid. And it could be at the top of the chest or the bottom of the chest. Where is the chest? It's everything above the button, everything above the stomach. And the stomach is where the navel is, your belly button. And therefore you'll find with the Hanafi madhab, they have their hand on their stomach, which is the upper part, the bottom part of the chest. And it reminds them, part of the reason, it reminds you that the one who feeds you and gives you strength and gives you success in life, the one who fulfills our hunger and need is Allah. And if you put your hand on your chest, it's to remind you that your heart should be fearing Allah, that you're going to be bound in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you hold yourself tight in khushu'ah. It's not meant to be like I'm just, lazy. It's meant to be to bind yourself, to hold yourself tight with Allah. The third way of placing your hands in salah is called sadl. Sadl is also from the sunnah. And if you read the books of tradition, you find that the madhab of Imam Malik allows the praying with the hands on the side, Sunni position. Of course, we know that Shia people, they have their hands here, they follow the madhab of Ali radiallahu anhu. And this is narrated from Ali that he would pray with his hands at attention, a position of attention. So that's also referred back to the action of the Sahaba and from our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of that is valid and gives extra reward. Placing your hands on your chest, placing your hands above your stomach, above your navel, gives you the reward of following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 3, reciting dua. As you begin, there's certain dua that the Prophet would read. And I want you to get, I didn't put the dua here because I want you to go out and search it. And I want you to Google, what did the Prophet begin his salah with? I'm going to share with you some of them. So one of them, could you imagine when you come to begin your prayer and you begin and you say, Allahu Akbar. And you stand and then you say, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khatayai kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal-maghrib. Oh Allah, separate between me and my mistakes the distance you have made between the east and the west. Allahumma ghsilni bil ma'i wal thalj wal barad. Oh Allah, cleanse me from the mistakes I've made today, even if it is with water or snow or even ice. And then the Prophet would say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would continue, oh Allah, he's asking for forgiveness. Allahumma naqini min ad-dhunubi wal khataya kama yunaqqa ath-thawb al-abyad min ad-danas. Oh Allah, clean me the way a white piece of clothing becomes brilliant and shiny in its light, in its whiteness, after a good wash. Wash me away from my sins. So imagine you begin salah, that's the first thing that's on your mind. That's a part of your niyyah in entering salah. Oh Allah, cleanse me, wash me, remove me, separate me from my errors. And then you begin, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Oh Allah, let me pray without being tempted and tested and molested by the shaitan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. And you begin your salah. Another dua of opening the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ, he would say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would read from Surah Al-An'am, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Oh Allah, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death, all of it belongs to you, the Lord of all existence. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ, I've been ordered to do this salah. Oh Allah, accept me from those and witness that I'm one of those who have submitted to you. Allahumma inni wajjahtu ilayka wajhi fatir as-samawati wal-ard. Oh Allah, I turn my face towards you. You're the one who created the heavens and the earth. So when you begin your salah, and there's many other dua of the Prophet ﷺ, all of them are so beautiful like the ones I shared with you. When you begin salah with that dua, it's going to be a different salah than the one that you just prayed with us, Salatul Dhuhr. Why? Because it gives you greater meaning in your connection with Allah. The simplest dua to begin your salah is A'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-rajim. Is that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you from the accursed shaitan. What's next? How else do we earn reward? Is that you say Ameen when you read the Fatiha. By the way, when you read Surah Al-Fatiha outside Salah, it is not the norm of the Quran to say Ameen. So if I'm teaching you Quran and I'm teaching you the reading of Surah Al-Fatiha, every time we say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, you don't always have to say Ameen unless you're using it as a prayer. So in assembly we use it as a prayer sometimes. So we do say Ameen. But it is a recommendation, Ameen bil maddi wa takhfif al mim. It is that you say Ameen for both the Imam and the followers after reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Now, if you follow the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, is that you don't raise your voice out loud. And this was the habit of some of the Sahaba. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he didn't raise his voice out loud and say, Ameen. He didn't say it out loud. But there are numerous hadith to show in the life of the Prophet ﷺ that the Sahaba yajharu, they would raise their voice with the Ameen, and they would raise their voice with it, and they would say that the Prophet ﷺ said, the one whose Ameen is equal in measure and their voice is the same with the voice of the Imam, their sins are forgiven. So you want to say it with the Imam. Don't be before them, don't be too late after them. You want to say Ameen together in your salah with the Imam. And whether you say it loud, jahran, or you say it bitakhfif with a lower voice, all of it is from the tradition and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Quranic recitation after the Fatiha. Now that's a sunnah. So we prayed Salatul Dhuhr and you read Surah Al-Fatiha and there's still a little bit of time, then you should read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You read another surah. And it is better to read a whole surah than a smaller surah. It is better to read a section that has a meaning in the surah than just random verses. And you should read from one place that gives meaning to a complete meaning to another place. So you shouldn't cut the middle of an ayah if you have an opportunity to read it. What is the shortest amount that earns you the reward of reading something after Surah Al-Fatiha is at least 3 verses. And why do we say 3 verses? Because the shortest surah in the Quran is Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. 3 verses. It's the shortest amount that is defined as Quran. You should also try to recite specific surahs where the Prophet used to recite it. So for Salat al-Jumu'ah, it was a regular habit. It wasn't always, but it was a regular habit of the Prophet ﷺ in the first rak'ah to read the Fatiha and Sabbih Isma Rabbika al-A'la. And in the second rak'ah, al-Fatiha and Hal Ataka Hadith al-Ghashiyah. He would do that also for both prayers of Eid. He would pray sallallahu alayhi wasallam with specific sections of surahs in specific places, and it's recommended to follow that habit of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the recommended actions of some of the Sahaba, like Mu'adh ibn Jabal, was to read Qul huwallahu ahad even if you read another surah. So just say you read something from Surah Al-Baqarah, he would also read Qul huwallahu ahad because of his love for that chapter. Another way of earning reward is to make the first rak'ah long in the recitation of the Quran for Salatul Fajr. And that gives people, as an Imam, gives people an opportunity to wake up and join you. Sometimes, it's tough to wake up for Fajr. So if people are a little bit late to come to the Jama'ah, you didn't just say Allahu Akbar, Qul Allahu Ahad, and then everybody comes like, whoa, you finished already. And it's a sign of the knowledge of the Imam to lead long sections. The Prophet would lead 60, 80 verses for the first rak'ah of Salat al-Fajr. Finally, reciting out loud in the second rak'ah of Salat al-Fajr and Jumu'ah, and for the first 2 rak'ah of Maghrib, first 2 rak'ah of Isha. You don't have to read Salat al-Maghrib out loud. You don't have to read Salat al-Isha or Salat al-Fajr out loud. And there might be, the occasion you're at work and you have to pray at work and you're going to lead yourself in Salat al-Maghrib. You don't have to say, Bismillahir Rahman. You don't have to do that. You could just very quietly read it softly. You don't get the reward of reading out loud. Why did the Prophet read out loud in the prayers of the darkness? Fajr, it's still dark. Maghrib and Isha, because that's when people are still a little bit drowsy. So you want them to wake up, so the Imam, it's one of the reasons, it's not the only reason, it's one of the reasons we recite out loud. But the prayer is valid even if you were to recite in a low voice. Those are ways of earning greater reward with our sunnah. This is where we're going to stop with our lesson today, inshallah. And next time we meet, we're going to continue with some more sunnah in the ruku'ah. So that was the sunnah of standing in prayer, and we'll continue with the sunnah of ruku' to earn greater reward in salah. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.